everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy that you wanted to join me today because today we're going to talk about a much requested topic, which is money. Over the years, I've gotten quite a lot of questions about how to sort of create a zero waste budget, how to prioritize what to buy and what not to buy, how to go zero waste when every zero waste swap is so expensive, what I make. There are just a lot of financial economics questions that I thought would be fun to talk about in a dedicated video, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about money, but before we get into it, I think there's a misconception that we have to debunk before going further, and I actually already made a debunking video about several zero waste sustainability myths. So if you're interested in learning more about things we might think is true about sustainability but turns out to not be true, I already have a video with many different kinds of myths, but this one I think is really important in this context, so we're going to repeat it. I think it's important to note that when you go zero waste or when you start to be interested in sustainability, it doesn't mean that we have to throw away all the things that do not reflect that lifestyle change. It's something that's not uncommon consumer behavior when we find out there's a new lifestyle or there is like something we want to get into, like it can be a hobby, lifestyle, activity, anything. We often end up buying things that symbolize that lifestyle change and that we think works well in context with the new things we've learned about. But with sustainability, it's the other way around. We shouldn't throw anything away that is functional, that can be recycled or donated, that you can continue to use, even if it doesn't feel like it fits perfectly into your new zero waste life. It's important not to throw anything away and go out and buy new things, because those things will not be sustainable because they are replacing things that could have been functioning still. You feel? The new ideal, or the ideal in sustainability and in zero waste and any kind of green lifestyle, is not only looking at what we consume, but also how we consume it. So it's a great idea to start saying, do I need this or do I just want this? Because need and want are two very different things. And going into sustainability, we have to reconsider and rethink a lot of our past behaviors as consumers, and that is where the first step is actually taken. It's not at buying stainless steel straws or buying canvas bags. It's way before you ever have to spend any money. When I started going zero waste, or when I started to learn about zero waste, which is probably more accurate, I still had unsustainable habits here and there because I didn't change everything I did overnight. I don't think anyone should do that either. So when I started to go zero waste, I took everything one thing at a time. I looked at one problem and tried to find one solution for that, and then I moved on to a different thing. So there was never this sort of, I have to buy everything at once, I have to acquire a lot of new things, and then I'm zero waste. If I had done it that way, if I had thrown everything away or thought I should start with all the things I did wrong all at the same time, it would have been very expensive to go zero waste, I reckon, because then you would have to buy new stuff, everything for your kitchen, everything for your bathroom. If you buy that all at the same time and not accumulate it over a longer period of time, everything is going to be expensive. It would also be expensive to buy unsustainable things this way. What I did, and I feel like what a lot of people generally do, and I think one of the things that we need to really focus on when we talk about sustainability and how we buy things and how we consume, is that if you still have unsustainable habits when you start to go zero waste, or when you still have things that you do that are unsustainable, if you still have old behavior patterns, if you still have old consumer patterns, and then you just add sustainable things on top, it can also feel more expensive, at least some of the time, because some things cost more for really good reasons. Stuff like organic food, stuff like unpackaged food, stuff like seasonal or local food, and generally unpackaged food, the stuff that fall into the zero waste realm, might not be the cheapest option, and that's really, really unfortunate, but that's just not how our food system, our faulty food system, is put together. It often costs more to practice sustainability in a business model. It often costs more to pay people fair wages, which is why we often end up having to pay more for certain sustainable products. But some sustainable products, or sustainable products, also costs more for really wrong reasons. Because there's a global discourse about sustainability, it's very, very easy to see how consumer demand is sort of drifting towards a sustainable agenda and how we respond very well as consumers to things like green, eco, sustainable, plastered all over packaging. So if a consumer has a feeling that this product is more sustainable than another product, it's more and more likely that consumers will purchase that product. And some people, some brands have seen this as an opportunity to make more money. The global discourse about sustainability and green living has opened up a spot in the capitalistic market for more profit and for more products to be made. And some sustainable green products I have seen and I have noticed, I see you, they are made in the same factories as the non-sustainable, non-green stuff. So these green products might be expensive for the very wrong reasons, not because anyone has been paid a livable wage to produce them or because there's an ethical and transparent supply chain, but more because it reflects a certain consumer value and ooh. When it comes to pricing and products, we as a collective society has also been used to paying very, very little for a lot of product. Arguably too little for too much. But I think in this context, it is also very important to recognize and realize that not everyone has the option to not choose the cheapest product. I have been in contact with, seen in comments, gotten DMs, talked to in real life, tons of people who literally have no other option but to buy the cheapest things because they're working 2-3 jobs and they have families that they need to support. I think it's important to mention and acknowledge that being able to choose a more expensive product is privilege. Being able to choose a more expensive product because it reflects your values more than the cheapest possible product, that is privilege. That is economical financial privilege, and not everyone is able to make those choices. But this speaks to an underlying problem, and that it is not all the consumer's fault. I really, really think this is super duper important to talk about as well, because especially in zero waste, I feel like, and I love that about the movement and I hate that about the movement at the same time, a lot of the responsibility is put on the consumer, and that's great if we have room to change, but when we literally do not have any other option, it feels really discouraging to be told that everything is on you. Everything is not on the consumer, especially those who do not have any means to choose differently than what they're doing now. Because there's an underlying problem within our food system, within our consumer system, and that is the fact that CEOs of companies that produce the cheapest possible products, they're making billions, and they are choosing not to pay fair wages. They are choosing to ignore waste management issues. They're choosing to pollute waterways. They're choosing to emit CO2 that is completely unnecessary. They're choosing to wrap their products in more plastic than necessary. That is all their choice. That's a priority made by the company, that they prefer higher paychecks rather than sustainable products. Completely their choice, and thus also kind of their responsibility, I'm not gonna lie. 71% of all global emissions are caused by the same 100 companies. So I feel like it's really important to mention that sometimes consumers, you and I, just tiny little us, can't do everything to change everything. Like, no. Therefore, I feel like, and I often say this, I mean, like, but sustainability, zero waste, every type of green lifestyle should be a three-parted responsibility of consumers, politics, and the industry. We have 1/3 of the responsibility, and I even feel like that's a stretch because that assumes that the industry has just as much responsibility as we do, or we have just as much responsibility as the industry. And arguably the industry are able to do way more things than we are. So I want you to remember this as well when we're talking about these sort of things, and don't feel discouraged when you don't have the means to change everything you want to change and live your ideal life. It's really hard to live zero waste in a system not designed for zero waste. So that was a huge side note, but I think it was important to say, so moving on. I've also learned that a lot of being zero waste is using things that are free or things that would have been discarded anyway or by others, like dumpster diving, or reusing newspaper for gift wrapping, or jam jars from the supermarket for bulk shopping, rather than buying new shiny things, because no need when resources are already available to us, arguably in less flashy packaging, which is also the entire point. But money. When we have unsustainable habits or consumer patterns and we just add sustainable things on top, it can be too expensive to actually and realistically practice in your everyday life. For instance, if you're used to shopping at fast fashion stores every single week, but now you want to do sustainable living and now you want to live more sustainably, doing the same thing, like shopping every week, buying new clothing every single week, will be really expensive if you are only now shopping at sustainable brands, because clothing made sustainably and ethically does cost more money because, again, people are paid fair wages. Doing things the old way or the way we're used to, but just with a green twist, will automatically become impossible at some point, because sustainability is not only about consuming better products, but also consuming less in general and rethinking our old ways and our old habits. We have to rethink what we used to do and find better ways of doing it. Not just, shopping the same way we used to, but with a different aesthetic. You feel? We have to consider how we consume and not only what we consume. Can that be the motto for this video? Because I feel like that sums it up really nicely. Now, after 6 years of trying to be zero waste or working with sustainability, I've found ways of living and spending money that completely works for me. And what I have essentially been doing, not consciously, but what has sort of just happened to the way that I spent money, I've basically flipped my budget around. I spent sort of the same amount of money now that I did prior to going zero waste, but I spent them on vastly different things. I've experienced over the years how my budget has opened up for new things when I stopped buying meat products, or when I stopped buying fast fashion all the time, or when I stopped impulse shopping in general, and when I stopped spending money on things that felt unnecessary to me. That gave me room to spend a little extra on things that I would normally not be able to afford, like paying a couple of extra bucks for that specific organic rice brand that comes in a cardboard box, or to pay that extra amount of money for socks or underwear that is produced by a sustainable company rather than fast fashion. Prior to going zero waste, prior to talking about sustainability or even feeling interested in it, I would never have paid extra for those sorts of things because I didn't really value what I was actually paying for. But now I sort of spend less money and no money on things that used to take up a lot of my budget. I buy most of my clothes secondhand, and the things I don't buy pre-loved are from green brands, and I figure the ratio is sort of 90-10. I spend more on certain food products now, but I spend way less on nothing on other food products. For instance, meat was kind of expensive, especially when I got it in my own jar at the butcher shop, and in comparison, stuff like lentils that I eat basically every single day are much cheaper. I also never spent money on stuff like gag gifts or impulse buys or trend things or new decor just for the heck of it, or designer labels or new electronics. So I have extra money now to spend on things that I value. Another thing is that you have to, in sustainability, I feel like, or in general in zero waste, green, sustainable lifestyles, you have to be willing to spend a little bit more money on one thing rather than buying really cheap things over and over for the rest of your life. I feel like the menstrual cup is a really good example here, because the menstrual cup costs more money as a single purchase than a box of tampons or pads. But a menstrual cup can last you for up to 10 years while you have to continuously keep buying tampons and pads. Disposable products might seem really cheap because you have to pay in small amounts and you have to pay for small amounts of things, but you have to do it all the time. If we just look at the budget for a year and how much a menstruating person spends on disposable products, the same with the bidet. A bidet attachment might be more expensive to install initially, but when you use a bidet attachment, you can actually minimize your paper consumption, your toilet paper consumption, by at least 50%. So that's also something that sort of earns itself, but it also comes in different variations. You can also start making your own pads, for instance, because that is way cheaper than buying the menstrual products that are reusable, and there are tons of variations in this, so this is simply just an example. When I started my zero waste journey, I think it was back in 2015, I had a monthly budget of $850, and that money had to cover rent, utilities, school supplies, food, everything. That was all the money that I had. So there wasn't really a lot of room for fancy stainless steel lunch boxes or really fancy water bottles. No, I sort of started out by using what I already had, buying thrifted things, or simply using what I would have thrown away previously. Now I make sort of a teacher's salary, I think. It depends from month to month. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. But on average, I feel like we are landing on a solid teacher's salary. And some people think that is not a lot of money. Some people don't really see how I can make everything go by with that. And some people think it's a lot of money. And I fall somewhere in between, like I'm really content, but I also don't have any expenses. I have very few expenses, at least. I don't have debt, which I am so grateful for. I don't own a car. Jens owns this apartment, but I pay rent. And I don't have any lavish hobbies or lavish habits, except for buying nutritional yeast. Of course, that's actually kind of expensive. I think I have 60-hour work weeks or something like that. I do work quite a lot, but again, I also love working, so it's fine. I'm just really grateful that I'm able to run a business that can earn me a livable salary so I can keep doing what I love and that I can keep doing it every day. I think that's amazing. And I didn't go into sustainable YouTube or any kind of, you know, everything that I'm doing. I didn't go into any of it to be rich or to earn a lot of money. Then I would have chosen a different path. 100. I am also, every single month, I am able to both put something aside in case of an emergency, and I'm also putting something aside for investments, green investments and sustainable investments specifically. And I think that could be a really fun video to do, like how to invest in green or sustainable projects, and there's a whole realm of things to talk about there, so let me know if that's something you also want to talk about. For the most part, my sustainable lifestyle, and I'm saying my sustainable lifestyle because sustainability and zero waste is in no way, shape or form like a universal experience. And there's so many things that factor in what we can do and what we can't do. We have different opportunities and we have different shops and abilities and ideas and environments that might enable or disable us in our ideal lifestyle. So yeah, in my experience, sustainable living is not only about buying new things that match the zero waste aesthetic. It's about using what we already have, like making our own cleaning agents, or choosing a green energy supplier, or buying second-hand, or repairing stuff when it breaks, or using 20-year-old Tupperware containers instead of buying new things, like going trash picking or buying in bulk when that's possible, or throwing away less food, or using all parts of the vegetables when we're cooking, or cooking from scratch, or dumpster diving and voting for green politicians and speaking up about climate change when we can and doing the best from the position in which we're in. That is what I think sustainability and zero waste is. So that is sort of my take. I hope you liked this video. I know it was a little bit here and there and everywhere, but I wanted to cover a lot of different things, and I hope this was helpful or it made sense in any sort of way. Let me know down below if you have any thoughts or questions related to this topic, and let me know if you want to see more about eco-economics. I'm really proud of this one, and I know I shouldn't be. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day and take really good care of you guys. Until next time. Bye! Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green zero waste content, and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!